Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation on coping with everyday challenges and life events. So, we're just going to move right along. So, just a brief overview. We're going to be looking at everyday challenges and life events, which are part of life. And we're going to be looking at how coping is crucial for managing stress, emotions, and our well being. This presentation explores coping strategies, when to seek out support, and how to support children through the challenges that they might experience with their own coping. So, what is coping? So, coping are strategies and behaviors we use to manage our stress, emotions, and navigate difficult situations. It's a way of dealing with the challenges that present themselves throughout life, whether they be big or small. So, why exactly is coping important? So, coping helps to reduce the feelings of stress, anxiety, and helplessness. Effective coping can prevent burnout, depression, and other mental health issues that may arise. And healthy coping strategies support emotional regulation. Some different coping styles. So, we have emotion focused coping, so attempts to change our negative emotions. There's also problem focused coping, so attempting to change the situation which is causing us stress. And then there is avoidance. So we're seeking to just avoid the problem altogether, which out of the three here, this one here at the bottom is the least effective of the different coping styles. So I have a video here and I'm just going to um, play it. I'm just, it looks like the sound isn't on though, so just give me one moment and I will reshare just to include the sound. Here we go. Okay.
Within mental health, there is a lot of talk about finding the right tools, techniques, and coping strategies that will help us to better manage our poor mental health symptoms and own well-being. But what does this actually mean? Simply put, there are things we do to help reduce a buildup of negative emotions and thoughts that are causing our behaviors to impact our lives, such as work, relationships, family, and even financially. This is Bob. He has noticed that recently he gets easily frustrated, is comfort eating, has become socially isolated from his friends, is constantly tired and struggles with low mood. Bob learns that these are possible signs and symptoms of stress and poor mental health. So he attends a self-help workshop where he learns the importance of self-awareness, self-care, and self-help. Through the workshop, Bob identifies several coping strategies to help him with his current poor mental health. He has now asked for help and is speaking to someone, walks to and from work whilst listening to music, has begun guided meditation for a few minutes every lunchtime, and taken up photography as a new hobby. He has now begun to feel better, has learned how to better manage the bad days so they don't impact his life as much, and is now enjoying life once more. Millions of people are struggling with poor mental health. This is totally normal, and no one who does is alone. Though without any intervention can lead to a diagnosis of a mental illness. The intervention can simply be a coping strategy like those that Bob identified, such as talking to someone, exercising, socializing, getting a pet, getting involved in an activity, or finding a hobby. Be creative, such as painting, sculpture, or singing in a choir. The key thing is for you to take that first step and accept you need to do something. Identify the areas in your life that aren't quite right currently, and then find the coping strategies that are right for you. Should you still need to speak to someone, then speak to the Samaritans below, or even mine.
And I'm just going to pause it there, as those resources are not in our local area, and we'll kind of touch base on that later in the presentation. So just moving right along here. So common everyday challenges that you may need coping strategies for. So work-related stress or burnout, if you're having financial concerns, your family relationships, health problems or lifestyle changes. And then here we just have a small visual on different things that you can do in regards to the emotion-focused coping skills or those problem-focused coping skills that we touched on already. So exercising, taking a bath, giving yourself the pep talk, meditating, working on your time management, asking for the support, establishing healthy boundaries, and creating different types of lists for yourself in tasks that you're needing to complete. And then we just have another short video here on building your toolbox in regards to the coping as well. So I'm just going to start that one here.
We all have to deal with stress. Whether our life is being threatened in a disaster or we're just late for an important meeting, we need mechanisms to cope with all types of stress. It is commonly said that life is not what happens to us, but how we choose to react to what happens to us. Today, we're going to talk about healthy versus unhealthy coping mechanisms and how you can use these strategies to help yourself or share them to help others. Welcome to Mental Health Collaborative, a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating our community in mental health literacy. We believe that a foundational education about mental health promotion and understanding mental health and mental illness will lead to more resilient communities and decreased stigma. We believe that mental health literacy is a right and need of everyone. Thank you for joining us. When we are faced with too much stress or are having difficulty dealing with stress, using healthy coping mechanisms can allow us to feel in control, calm, and ready to handle whatever is causing us stress. On the other hand, relying on unhealthy coping mechanisms may work in the short term, but ultimately may end up hurting our physical health, mental health, and even our relationships. Here are some of the healthy ways we can cope with stress. Box breathing is when we breathe in for 4 seconds, hold our breath for 4 seconds, then breathe out for 4 seconds, and hold our breath for 4 seconds. Repeating this several times. This technique slows down our breathing, which forces our heart to slow and activates the calming response in our body. Another technique, called 5-4-3-2-1, is in our heads, we list 5 things we see, 4 things we feel, 3 things we hear, 2 things we smell, and 1 thing that we taste. This technique helps ground us in the present moment and can slow down racing thoughts. Exercise of any type is another healthy coping mechanism. Exercise floods the body with endorphins and can help use up the adrenaline released from stress, clearing our heads and allowing us to feel calmer. Sometimes we are so overwhelmed with stress that we don't even realize how awful we feel. Writing down our feelings to acknowledge them and then making a plan to problem solve can help us tune into our thoughts and feelings and figure out an action plan. Taking a break from technology can help us to focus on our immediate surroundings, tune into how we are feeling, and connect live with others. Leaning on our relationships, talking about what is stressing us out, and asking for help are some of the best ways to cope with stress. It can be difficult to admit that we are struggling, but once we tell someone, we almost always feel better. Spending time with friends and family, even if we don't talk about our stress, can help us feel calmer and less overwhelmed by our circumstances. Gratitude is another helpful way to combat stress. When something is upsetting to us, it can help to be grateful for what is good in our lives. Doing an act of kindness can reduce stress as well. Acts of kindness flood our bodies with feel-good hormones, increase our sense of connectedness and purpose, and help us focus on problems other than our own. Here are some unhealthy coping mechanisms to watch out for and avoid. Alcohol and other substances can be used to dull or numb the pain of stress, but this effect is temporary, does not resolve the problem, harms us if we do it too much, and can become an addiction. Similarly, overeating or undereating creates an unhealthy relationship with food, can harm us by starving or overfilling our body and creating additional emotional stress. It fails to address what is actually stressing us out. Avoiding the problem by using social media, work, television, sleep, or other distractions can work to prevent us from thinking about our stress, but it does not resolve the stress. Social withdrawal and aggression are also unhealthy ways to cope with stress. We may withdraw if we are overwhelmed and do not have the energy to interact with others. However, interacting with others almost always helps relieve our stress. On the other hand, taking our stress out as aggression or aggravation toward others may leave our loved ones hurt and confused, and may leave us feeling guilty about how we treated them. Finally, self-harm is a dangerous way to cope with stress. If you or someone you know self-harms, please seek professional help immediately. Remember, we all face stress and difficulties in life. Using healthy coping mechanisms helps us deal with our stress in active, beneficial ways. There are always ways to problem solve and strategize, no matter what our stress may be. If you or someone you know is struggling to cope, see the
And I think this was a great video in just kind of identifying, those healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms that sometimes we do find ourselves either using or, like they said, kind of avoiding in utilizing some unhealthy ones. So just moving forward here.
resources below.
So, additionally to yourself and utilizing coping mechanisms and meeting strategies, children also need coping strategies. So, just recognizing that children also experience stress. And if you are able to model some of these coping strategies, that can also be beneficial to your children, or if you're interacting with children, and helping children identify and label their emotions. And I just have a small video here as well on helping children understand their emotions and some zones of regulation. So I'm just going to go ahead and play that here.
Kiddos, do you sometimes get bent out of shape but don't understand why you're feeling this way? That's because our emotions can be really hard to recognize. So let's get our feelings under control with another Wellness 101 Junior.
Presented by St. Luke's Pediatrics.
Kids, our feelings can... Hey, Welby! What's the matter, buddy? That's okay, pal. I know it may not feel like it, but what you're going through is completely normal. Well, that's because sometimes our emotions can be really hard to understand. You see, kids, our feelings can be tricky. Knowing how to identify them and control them is a very powerful skill to learn, even for adults. To control them, or regulate them, means you're processing your emotions properly. How do we do that? Well, first we need to take a peek at your brain. Our brains have many different parts that do many different jobs. Today we'll be focusing on the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. Your amygdala is where you feel your emotions, and your prefrontal cortex is where you make smart decisions. Your amygdala is interesting in the fact that it doesn't think, it just reacts. As a matter of fact, most of the time it overreacts, and that's why we need our prefrontal cortex to help us calm down and make smart decisions. To help make things easier, we can put our emotions into 4 different zones. We call these zones the zones of regulation. The green zone is when you're at your best, when you're feeling happy, focused, calm, and proud. When we're in the green zone, we're ready to learn, work, and play. The yellow zone is when we're feeling overwhelmed, worried, frustrated, silly, or excited. Yellow means we're overstimulated and unfocused, but not completely out of control yet. And then there's the blue zone. This is the zone where we feel tired, sad, hurt, bored, or sick. The blue zone makes us feel down and also unfocused. And lastly is the red zone. Danger, danger, danger. It's okay, kids, it's just the red zone. This is where our amygdala goes into overdrive. We feel angry, terrified, really sad, or just plain cuckoo. When we're in the red zone, the amygdala is the boss, and it makes calming down really, really hard. That's why the zones of regulation are so important. They help us identify what we're feeling and give us the ability to take control. Using a calming strategy can work wonders here. Calming strategies send messages to your prefrontal cortex that we need help to guide us back to the green zone. There are a ton of great calming strategies that you can use depending on your situation, like dance it out, squeezing a stress ball, listening to calming music, or watching funny videos, just to name a few. My personal favorite calming strategy is something called box breathing, because it can literally be done anywhere, at any time, and you can repeat it as many times as needed to help you calm down. Come on, gang, let's help Welby here box breathe. To box breathe, take a breath in for 4 seconds. Now hold that breath for another 4 seconds. Next, exhale that breath for 4 seconds. Lastly, hold your lungs empty for another 4 seconds. Repeat that process as many times as you need until you feel yourself sliding back into the green zone. Feel better, buddy?
You betcha.
I figured you might, pal. Kids, I know there are some days when you're just not going to feel like yourself. But remember, the zones of regulation will not only help you feel better, but will help others understand how you're feeling. Find out what zone you're in and use your favorite calming strategy to help you feel more like yourself again. Until next time, this is Mr. Wellness and Welby saying be well and follow the steps to a healthier you.
Okay. And I think it was great there that you were able to see some of that modeling taking place between the 2 different videos, one being for children and the other one kind of being more adult focused, and that box breathing being one of those breathing strategies you're able to use in both cases. Age is not a determinant of using that strategy. Okay, moving. So when to seek support. So persistent distress that is impacting your daily functioning when you're not able to get the things done that you normally do, feeling stuck in unhealthy coping patterns. So just again, not feeling like you're getting anywhere, you're not making progress. So talking to a therapist or a counselor would be helpful, or you can also seek support from different help groups. So looking, Google is often a starting place. I would also invite you to the Relationship Center's website. And if you're needing support, we do have a book now button. If you are needing some additional support outside of just kind of enhancing and kind of being aware of some coping skills and strategies. And so just to bring this to a conclusion, so coping is essential for managing life's challenges that come into our daily life, which affect our functioning. Healthy coping mechanisms support emotional and mental well being. Children, just like adults, need support to navigate their own challenges. And when coping is not enough, seeking that professional help to get you to where you would like to see yourself. And then just posting a couple of resources additionally. You can find a lot of visuals as well, just kind of on the internet. So these are kind of specific to children, but you can find ones that are for adults as well. But just kind of identifying the feeling and having kind of that visual of I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling worried, crying, and then having them identify something that they can do as one of their strategies for managing that stress. And then again, another visual here for coping tools for kids, just different activities that you can do with them. So drawing, talking about it, reading different books or resources related to the type of stress that is occurring, taking a break, doing an activity together like a puzzle. So there's many different options and many different visuals depending on what it is that you're needing. And again, there are resources and visuals for adults as well. And I am inviting any questions or discussion. If you are watching this video after this live stream, you can always message the email link that was provided with your questions, and we can hook you up to one of the therapists to be able to answer some of those questions. And then just to continue, so we are having a series of webinars. So this is the second one for enhancing your coping skills. Moving forward, there will be 4 more that are going to be taking place with the dates. And if you are looking for a link to register, please just, again, email right here is info@therelationshipcenter.ca to register and receive the link for attendance. And then just here, you are able to pause if you are needing. This is all of the contact information that is relevant to connect to you as soon as possible, as well as, again, going to the website and clicking the Book Now button. But we do have the address here, as well as all of the means of connecting with us. And our services, again, are available by phone, in person, or via a virtual platform. Thank you for joining. I am now going to stop the recording.